3 families evacuated in March. 12 buildings were damaged in June. Hundreds of residents were sleeping outside by October. What started as minor structural damage in Naples has revealed the most sophisticated geological threat system ever detected beneath a major city. AI earthquake analysis just confirmed that Campi Flegrei has been secretly constructing a ring fault network using 42,000 hidden tremors over 3 years. Each evacuation was connected. Each building crack was coordinated. Each earthquake was building towards systematic activation of underground infrastructure designed to trigger coordinated urban collapse. The ground rising 6 inches per year is not random geological pressure. It is precision engineering by planetary forces preparing for synchronized destruction. The pattern is accelerating beyond all historical precedent. The families who fled their homes are the early warning system for 500,000 people living directly above the most dangerous volcanic network in Europe. So here is the critical question authorities are not answering. If 3 families fleeing structural damage were just the beginning of a hidden earthquake network activation, what happens when this ring fault system reaches full operational capacity? And why are scientists saying that everything we have seen so far is only the preparation phase? Campi Flegrei represents one of the most deceptive geological threats on Earth. Unlike the dramatic cone of nearby Vesuvius, this supervolcano disguises itself as a series of gently rolling hills west of Naples. The name translates to burning fields, but few residents understand they are living inside an 8-mile-wide crater formed by 2 of Europe's most catastrophic eruptions. The Campanian ignimbrite eruption 39,000 years ago ejected 72 cubic miles of molten rock, triggering global climate change and covering all of Europe plus parts of Russia in volcanic ash. The more recent Neapolitan yellow tuff eruption 15,000 years ago carved out the current caldera structure that now houses major urban centres. What makes Campi Flegrei uniquely dangerous is its caldera configuration. Instead of a single central vent, the system operates through 24 separate craters and volcanic edifices spread across the entire depression. This distributed network means pressure can build simultaneously across multiple points, creating the potential for coordinated explosive activity. The caldera experiences bradyseism, slow vertical ground movement that can continue for decades. But recent analysis suggests this is not passive geological breathing, it is active preparation. The system literally rises and falls as underground pressure builds toward critical thresholds that could trigger coordinated network activation. 1/3 of the caldera lies submerged beneath the Bay of Pozzuoli, creating additional complications for underwater structural failure and potential tsunami generation, affecting coastal populations throughout the Mediterranean region. Campi Flegrei's historical record reveals a pattern of long dormancy, punctuated by sudden, violent awakening. The last eruption in 1538 created Monte Nuovo in just 1 week, preceded by 3 days of intense earthquakes and ground fracturing that forced residents to flee Pozzuoli. But that event was minor compared to the caldera's catastrophic potential. Scientific analysis of past cycles shows the system goes through predictable phases of unrest that can last decades without leading to eruption. These non-eruptive episodes were previously dismissed as false alarms. Modern research reveals these cycles are not random. Each episode of unrest forms part of a single evolutionary sequence where previous cycles contribute to cumulative structural changes in the crust. A landmark 2023 study concluded that unrest since the 1950s has a cumulative effect, building energy in the crust and making the volcano increasingly susceptible to eruption. The 1980s crisis provides crucial precedent. From 1982 to 1984, Intense earthquake swarms caused ground uplift exceeding 6 feet, forcing evacuation of 40,000 residents from Pozzuoli. That crisis ended without eruption, but scientists now understand it was part of ongoing structural evolution toward critical failure. Previous unrest episodes occurred from 1950 to 1952, from 1969 to 1972, and from 1982 to 1984. The current phase began in 2005 and has shown accelerating intensity since 2018. The mathematical progression suggests each cycle builds pressure that the next cycle must accommodate, creating conditions for eventual systematic failure. Recent ground uplift has reached levels comparable to the 1980s evacuation period, but with a crucial difference. The hidden earthquake network revealed by AI shows the system is far more active than traditional monitoring indicated. The breakthrough came from an unprecedented collaboration between Stanford University and Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology. Traditional earthquake monitoring relies on seismographs detecting sudden increases in ground shaking, followed by manual analysis, a process called phase picking that can miss subtle seismic signatures. Stanford's AI system, developed by doctoral researcher Xing Tan and Professor Greg Barossa, uses machine learning algorithms that identify patterns human analysts cannot detect. When applied to 3 years of Campi-Flegrei seismic data, the results were revolutionary. Monitoring stations had catalogued 12,000 earthquakes between 2022 and mid-2025. The AI detected 54,000. 3/4 of all seismic activity had been completely invisible to conventional methods, but the quantity was not the most disturbing discovery. The AI revealed geometric precision. The hidden earthquakes were not random, they were building something. Mapping all 54,000 events exposed a ring-shaped fault system that perfectly outlines areas of maximum ground uplift. This ring fault extends offshore and connects previously unknown fracture networks beneath residential areas. Lead researcher Xing Tan said their Italian colleagues were surprised to see the ring so clearly. They had expected scattered seismicity in some areas, but the precision of this circular pattern was unlike anything they had seen. The AI tool proved so effective that Italian authorities now operate it independently, providing real-time analysis capabilities that did not exist before 2025. And what it is revealing about Campi-Flegrei's hidden threat level has the scientific community on high alert. The terrifying truth behind Campi-Flegrei's awakening is not magma movement, it is water. Stanford researchers identified the triggering mechanism as rising pressure in a deep geothermal reservoir beneath Pozzuoli. As water and steam accumulate in underground chambers, pressure builds to levels that stress the surrounding rock beyond critical thresholds. The mathematical precision is disturbing. Ground uplift has occurred at exactly 15 millimeters per month since April. It's April 2025. Earthquake locations follow geometric patterns that outline specific pressure zones. The timing of major seismic events corresponds to calculated stress thresholds in the hydrothermal system. Visual evidence confirms systematic pressure buildup. A natural spring that appeared as a small pool in 2016 has transformed into a broad, water-filled basin by 2024. Wooden fence posts that stood above ground are now submerged, providing documentation of escalating hydrodynamic activity. The burst-like seismic swarms that started in 2021 represent a new phase of coordinated activity. The times between events are so short they are difficult to distinguish individually. They cluster around the main hydrothermal field and zones, showing anomalous uplift patterns. What makes this mechanism particularly dangerous is its stability. Unlike magma intrusions that can retreat, hydrothermal pressure systems tend to reach equilibrium through structural failure. The system will continue building pressure until the ring fault network can no longer contain it. What authorities have not publicized is how Campi Flegrei connects to regional geological networks spanning hundreds of kilometers. The October 2025 earthquake sequence affecting Avellino on October 24th, Irpinia on October 25th, and Campi Flegrei on October 26th demonstrates coordinated seismic activity across interconnected fault systems. These were not separate regional earthquakes. They were components of the same stress redistribution system, with Campi Flegrei serving as the central node in a network that can trigger coordinated seismic activity affecting millions of people across southern Italy. The ring fault system extends beyond visible caldera boundaries, reaching offshore beneath the Bay of Pozzuoli and connecting to fault networks associated with the Malta escarpment system. This creates pathways for pressure transfer that could activate secondary fault systems across the Mediterranean region. Ring fault. Recent seismic analysis reveals the ring fault it operates with mechanical precision, forming a structural boundary between rising and stable ground. When underground fluid pressure increases, the crust responds by breaking along lines of weakness that have organized into this coordinated network, channeling stress in predictable patterns. The implications extend beyond Italy. Submarine fiber optic cables carrying international communications on our pass-through areas that could be affected by underwater pyroclastic flows or tsunamis. The Mediterranean serves as a critical junction for data transmission between Europe, Africa, and Asia. Unlike the 2010 Eyjafjallajökull eruption that primarily affected northern European airspace, Campi Flegrei ash clouds would directly impact southern and central European flight corridors that handle significantly more international traffic. Economic disruption could exceed $1.7 billion in losses from the Iceland eruption. Regional evacuation scenarios reveal systemic vulnerabilities. Moving 500,000 people from the danger zone would overwhelm transportation infrastructure and create refugee situations affecting neighbouring countries. Road networks were not designed for simultaneous mass evacuation from the caldera. Overwhelm. The caldera's partially submerged location creates tsunami potential affecting coastal populations across the Mediterranean. Unlike earthquake-generated tsunamis that provide warning time, volcanic tsunamis develop within minutes of eruption onset. Tsunami. Critical infrastructure within the caldera includes Naples International Airport, major communication facilities, and industrial installations. Port facilities supporting regional commerce sit directly above areas of maximum ground uplift. High-speed rail networks connecting Naples to Rome pass through potential earthquake zones. Power generation faces particular vulnerability. Italy's electrical grid includes transmission lines and generation facilities within earthquake zones that connect to the Campi Flegrei network. Cascading power failures could affect emergency response capabilities across the region. Power. The coordinated nature of the fault system means infrastructure failures would not be random. They would follow the geometric pattern of the ring fault network, potentially overwhelming emergency response systems designed for isolated disasters. 360,000 people live directly inside Campi Flegrei's 8-mile crater, occupying neighbourhoods built on the floor of a geological time bomb. These populations include the historic city of Pozzuoli, parts of Naples, and numerous communities that have existed for centuries without understanding their volcanic foundation. The immediate danger is not necessarily eruption. Current analysis indicates the primary short-term threat comes from the ring fault network's seismic potential. Building damage from March 2025 and June 2025 earthquakes has already forced families from their homes. Structures built before modern seismic standards face widespread failure during magnitude 5 earthquakes predicted by Stanford researchers. The timeline for coordinated collapse depends on hydrothermal pressure system failure. If critical thresholds are reached, earthquake damage could occur within hours. Structural failure of buildings, bridges, and tunnels could trap residents before evacuation becomes possible. The psychological impact creates additional cascading effects. Families fleeing earthquake damage represent early indicators of broader population displacement as seismic activity escalates. Current evacuations demonstrate how quickly residential areas can become uninhabitable. Emergency evacuation logistics reveal catastrophic vulnerabilities. Road networks leading out of the caldera were not designed for simultaneous mass evacuation. Coastal areas face complications from potential tsunami generation in the Bay of Pozzuoli, creating multiple simultaneous threats that require different response strategies. Campi Flegrei's strategic location at the center of Mediterranean transport networks means a major eruption could trigger coordinated infrastructure failures across multiple countries. The region serves as a vital junction for maritime transport, aviation corridors, and submarine communication cables. Air travel implications would dwarf previous volcanic disruptions. Southern Italy's airspace handles critical European routes, connecting to Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Ash clouds from Campi Flegrei would directly affect flight paths serving Rome, Naples, and regional airports, handling millions of passengers annually. AIR travel would be severely disrupted. Maritime disruption extends beyond immediate port damage. The Mediterranean shipping corridors carry essential supplies between European, African, and Asian markets. Navigation hazards from underwater landslides or volcanic debris could affect shipping for months following major eruptions. Submarine fiber optic infrastructure faces direct threats from pyroclastic flows or tsunamis. These cables carry international communications and financial data transmission between continents. Disruption could affect global internet connectivity and economic transactions. Behind public reassurances lie significant knowledge gaps that authorities prefer not to discuss. The AI detection of 42,000 hidden earthquakes demonstrates that traditional monitoring systems miss 3/4 of actual seismic activity. This raises questions about what else remains undetected. Hidden signals matter. Current evacuation protocols assume advance warning of volcanic eruption. However, 1538 historical accounts suggest Campi Flegrei can transition from unrest to eruption within days. Modern urban populations and infrastructure cannot evacuate at the pace geological systems can activate. The red phone line between Naples Observatory and Rome's Civil Protection Headquarters, tested twice daily, indicates official concern levels far exceeding public statements. Emergency meetings with earthquake experts in 2025 resulted in establishment of specialized task forces on earthquake preparedness, measures that were not deemed necessary during previous unrest cycles. Classification of monitoring data and restricted access to real-time earthquake analysis suggest authorities understand the threat exceeds conventional volcanic hazard assessments. The transition from scattered individual evacuations to coordinated emergency planning indicates recognition that the current crisis differs fundamentally from historical unrest patterns. The hidden earthquake network beneath Campi Flegrei represents an unprecedented threat to European security. 500,000 people now sit directly above a geological time bomb primed for coordinated destruction. But this is not just about Naples or Pozzuoli. It is about a fundamental shift in how we understand the forces churning beneath our feet. The danger is real, it is accelerating, and it is time for the world to pay attention. Join us at Earth Attacks and subscribe to the channel as we continue to expose the truth behind this newly discovered supervolcano threat. Because when Campi Flegrei unleashes its next surprise, the fallout will extend far beyond Italy's borders. The future of Mediterranean civilization now rests on decisions made in the next critical months, and the clock is ticking.